Sacrifice. What is it good for? I know all of you were thinking it, so I went ahead and asked. You know, not all sacrifices were sin sacrifices, and that's one of the first mistakes we hear from the pulpit often. You know, someone will say, well, the sacrifice was for sin. It's all dealing with sin. Well, you know, that's not really true. The Passover lamb had nothing to do with sin. Nothing. You see, that actually messes with some theologies that we have. Think about it. If Yeshua was the Passover lamb because he was sacrificed supposedly at the time of the Passover lamb, and it was to take care of all sin, then wouldn't it be appropriate that the Passover lamb be a sin sacrifice? And it wasn't. You see, some of our typology, where we misapply it, actually causes us problems. We'll discuss that later. The goats at Yom Kippur were the only sacrifice that covered intentional sin, and one of the goats was not offered. So why, if Yeshua was taking care of all sin, didn't he come at Yom Kippur rather than at Passover? Have you ever been asked that question? Okay. We need to deal with that, because that's a really good question. The first fruit offerings were either redemptive and did not pay for sin, or were a tax for the perpetuation of the priesthood. You see, the priest got to keep those and eat them. Somebody had to pay for them. So it was kind of like a taxation. The gift offering was not required and could not be required, and had nothing to do with sin. It's just a gift. And if you required it, it ceased to be a gift. So there was no way it could be required. And it was a very intricate offering that was given in the Old Testament. It happened quite a bit. Sin wasn't the reason. A guilt offering is given due to someone being found guilty of a crime or sin, but nothing indicates that it pays for the offense. The offense was paid for in the judgment. You know, when you paid the victim, you paid them more than what you stole from them. If they lost, you harmed them in some way, a lot of times you had to pay them for harm, for whatever they required. It might be better understood as the court cost, and as the sin offering, a renewal of the covenant. In other words, it took care of two places here. You know, it was a part of the responsibility of solving the dispute. And yes, it renewed. It got you back into relationship with God. The tithes were an offering, but went strictly to the priest for their livelihood. Okay? It's not a sin offering. A second tithe was for the widow, the poor, and the celebration of the feast. Again, that's nothing to do with sin. The purpose of these sacrifices should be reviewed and reconsidered. I mean, if we think they're sin offerings, they really need to be reconsidered. Since we have already seen that many of the explanations fell short in their representation of God. You see, if we're portraying God as an angry God with the way we explain our sacrifices, maybe the things we say in other places are misrepresenting God. And I don't think it's a good idea for us to go around misrepresenting God. If the sin sacrifice was not to appease an angry God, and it could have not paid any debt for sin, but instead was a renewal of the broken covenant, then what were the other sacrifices for? We need to review these. What was a gift offering for? Remember the proverbial question, what do you give a man who has everything? So, let's think about this again. What can you give a God who made everything? This is a very important concept to grasp, and it's why I repeat it several times in here. You know, why do we have a gift offering?
Whatever man in the house of Israel, or of the strangers in Israel, who offers a sacrifice for any of his vows, or for any of his freewill offerings, which they offer to the Lord as a burnt offering, you shall offer of your own free will a male without blemish from the cattle, from the sheep, or from the goats. Whatever has a defect you shall not offer, for it shall not be acceptable on your behalf. But if the sacrifice of his offering is a vow or a voluntary offering, it shall be eaten the same day that he offers his sacrifice. But on the next day, the remainder of it also may be eaten.
Guy's got to go make a sacrifice. It's voluntary, so he doesn't really have to, but he needs to make it in Jerusalem because that's the place to do it. But it's voluntary, so he goes up to Jerusalem and he makes a sacrifice. Then what's he do with it?
Lunch.
It's lunch. Now, who was this a gift for? Gift, free will, voluntary offerings were strictly voluntary. Okay, they have to be. I mean, I know that this is really making a simple statement here, but I mean it is. So it's not required. They were used as a meal eaten before the Lord. So you go there, you eat a meal. They were an opportunity to be in the physical presence of the Lord. Now, wait a second. Think about what's going on here. Okay, do we even have a picture in our mind of what's going on? Can we even conjure this up? You know, you hear about going into your prayer closet and getting before the Lord. Okay, when was the last time when you were in your prayer closet before the Lord and suddenly there was this burning fire that was glowing out of the top of a building? That's a little weird, a little different. We don't normally get to experience that, do we? There are said to have been 10 manifestations of God being in his temple. I'm just going to list a few of these, but I want you to think about this because this is what the people who were giving a gift offering were able to go and see. Okay, first one was the Shekinah, which is what I was referencing. You know, over the altar, or not the altar, over the ark. Thank you. That's the term I'm looking for. I needed that. Okay. Over the ark, there was a manifestation of God where this light glowed and it went up to heaven. Okay, now, can you imagine being in a city where it's all dark around because you don't have any electric lights powered all throughout the night? The only thing you saw was the moon, the stars. That's what you saw at night, and the Shekinah glory coming out of the temple. Woo! Wouldn't that be? I bet we could get more people to go to Jerusalem if we had that going on now. And it's not going to be long, I think, that we might have that going on again. But that would be something. Okay, I'm going to have lunch, guys. I'm going to go up to Jerusalem. I'm going to sit there before the presence of God. And I won't be able to see Him face to face, but I'm going to see His glow. That's pretty neat. Another thing, the smoke from the altar went straight up to heaven. You know how almost everywhere, at least in Kentucky, when the smoke goes up, it hits this wind current and all of a sudden it's going sideways. Now it may go up 100 feet, it may go up 1,000 feet before it hits that current, but you can tell it just goes up and then it's going. It may not even get 2 feet off the ground because we do have some pretty good winds around here. But smoke went straight up all the time. That's kind of weird. That's different. But that was what was going on in the temple. Okay. We also had the fact that there weren't any flies. Now, when was the last time you all had a picnic without flies? Bet it was the dead of winter. Do you all have winter picnics? This was any time of the year. You could go into the temple and there weren't any flies. Now, these are just, some of these you can show in Scripture, and some of these are tradition that's been passed down. But there are just a few of them. I'm only giving you some of the things. The veil was said to have moved with breathing. The breathing of God. So there was a veil around that. Now you wouldn't be able to see that because you were outside of the holy place. You couldn't see that the veil moved. But you might be able to hear it because they said that you can hear the breathing of God. Okay. Now, you have a picnic out here in the temple grounds. You take the animal, whatever it is, free will. You can bring anything you want. Well, not just anything, but you couldn't bring a donkey, okay? But you can bring what's acceptable, and you can sacrifice it. Take it to the priest. He does the proper thing, and then you bring it back and you eat it. And you got all this stuff going on around you. You know, this is better than going to Coney Island. You know, where the roller coasters are going and all this stuff, and the kids are excited. This is something that could really bring an awe-inspiring message to your children. I'm going to take the children up there. We're going to eat at the temple. They're going to see God really exists. We have to work twice as hard to make this happen today. When the presence of God was there in the temple, it was so glorious that we can hardly imagine what was going on. We don't have a connection to it. It was said that Aaron's rod still budded in the ark. And when the high priest would come out of the Holy of Holies, he would bring a leaf. You know, he would pluck a leaf off of the ark, off of the Aaron's rod, and then he would come out and he would show it to the people that, yep, it's still in there. Actually, I think the inside is a mistranslation, but that's beside the point. I may be wrong there too. All right. So this is what you were buying, so to speak, for your offering, for your free will offering. Imagine the privilege in being able to witness some of these manifestations. Some of them you're going to see. What if you could eat a meal while listening to God breathe just 80 feet away from you? It just gets really close and really real this way. You could have an outdoor picnic without flies, and you might see the glow coming out of the temple at night. People travel thousands of miles to see a statue shed a tear. How much more exciting are these manifestations? Charging admission would profane the situation. Couldn't you see the priest out there on the corner? Come see the glow of God right here, all just $4.95, and you can see that would just really not be a wonderful situation, would it? You'd be attending a circus. You can't charge admission for this. That would profane everything about God. But not bringing a gift would devalue the experience. A gift. A voluntary gift. This would be a faith builder? Think so? Yeah. This experience would also bring the gift giver into a more intimate relationship with God. You see, you're right there. Think how intimate that becomes. The free will voluntary offering was a way the average person could enjoy being in the presence and experience the tangible manifestations of the Almighty Creator of the universe. He probably didn't get the same view that Moses got on Mount Sinai or when Moses went into the tabernacle. He probably didn't get the same view that the high priest got when the high priest went into the Holy of Holies. But he got what he could. He saw that God exists. The offering was only to make the experience valuable while leaving it available for everyone. The offering was given to God, but the individual ate it in His presence. The benefit of this offering was solely for the giver. Now think about this. The last thing we talked about the sin offering. Who was that for? Who benefited from it? Did God benefit from it? No. The only person who benefited from it was the one who gave it to reinstate the covenant. He became in covenant with God again after he had somehow inadvertently left that covenant. Or had possibly done that. I mean, he didn't even have to do anything wrong. He was just making sure that he hadn't done anything wrong. That would keep a barrier between him and God. So he was there making sure that covenant was in effect. It was for him. So here we have a gift offering. Who was it for? It was for him. Had nothing to do with God. Other than God requested it. Why did God request it? Because it was for him. Okay, let's look at the tithe now. This is a sacrifice that the dispensationalists don't believe was ended at the cross. I find this very interesting. The tithe, meaning a tenth, was another sacrifice that had nothing to do with sin. It wasn't because we sinned that we needed to give a tithe. Might have been because we were righteous that we needed to give a tithe. The tithe had multiple uses, which will only be revealed with a close look at Scripture. So,
all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord.
So all the tithe is holy. It's His. Actually, everything out there is His. Wow. So, in other words, let's think about this. This is You go out, you do a little bit of work. You plant the grain. You take care of the animals. God supplies everything, the water, the sun to make them grow. The food grows by itself. It's just a natural process. Okay, and for your work to help God with this process, as if he needed your help, but he says, I keep 10% and you keep 90%. Now, where in the world could you get a contract like this? When somebody supplies all the money and sets up everything to do a job, and you're the one who runs it, you get 25%, you're doing good. If you get 50%, you're really doing good. If you get 90%, the guy's crazy. Or he's your dad trying to set you up. It just doesn't work that way. Okay, well, your dad's trying to set you up, folks. That's what's happening. He's asking that you give him 10%. You get 90%. Okay, now, we really know that this isn't the case.
And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, of whatever passes under the rod, the 10th one shall be holy to the Lord. He shall not inquire whether it is good or bad, nor shall he exchange it.
Okay, now, here we have a sacrifice that doesn't have to be perfect. Did you notice? It's just whatever goes under the rod, you count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take it out, put it in this thing. Those are God's. Now, you definitely had better not be trying to make it to where every 10th one is a bad goat or a bad sheep. Not a good idea at all, because he catches on to those things and he says, you have a heart problem. And he may give you a heart problem. Okay, well, if you just let them go it the way they go, and then you get a 10th one that's bad, and then you get another 10th one that's bad, and another 10th one that has a problem, okay, Lord's just blessing you. But you still get 90%.
Behold, I have given the children of Levi all their tithes in Israel, as an inheritance in return for the work which they perform, the work of the tabernacle of meeting.
Okay, so the Levites couldn't always get all the good ones. If you had 30% of your flock that had a special trait that was not really very good, you could expect about 30% of the tithe that you're giving for it to be the same way. Because if it goes out randomly like that, the odds are it's going to be the same number. It's going to split up. So they went to the Levites. The Levites got to keep it because the Levites weren't out there raising anything for themselves, but they had to eat too. So all the tithe went to the Levites, right?
You shall truly tithe all the increase of your grain that the field produces year by year, and you shall eat before the Lord your God in the place where he chooses to make his name abide. The tithe of your grain and your new wine and your oil, of the firstborn of your herds and your flocks, that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. But if the journey is too long for you, so that you are not able to carry the tithe, or if the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far from you, and the Lord your God has blessed you, then you shall exchange it for money. Take the money in your hand and go to the place which the Lord your God chooses, and you shall spend that money for whatever your heart desires, for oxen or sheep, for wine or similar drink, for whatever your heart desires. You shall eat there before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your household. You shall not forsake the Levite who is within your gates, for he has no part nor inheritance with you. At the end of every third year, you shall bring out the tithe of your produce of that year and store it up within your gates.
Now we have a problem here. I don't know whether you caught it or not. seems like we have a real problem, because
When you have finished laying aside all the tithe of your increase in the third year, the year of tithing, and have given it to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, so they may eat within your gates and be filled, then you shall say before the Lord your God, I have removed the holy tithe from my house, and also have given them to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, according to all your commandments which you have commanded me. I have not transgressed your commandments, nor have I forgotten them.
Huh. Okay, all the tithe went to the Levites, right? Well, it said all the tithe went to the Levites. No, we have some problems here. You ate the tithe. It went to the Levites, took care of the widows and the orphans. So let's think about that. All of the tithe was given to the Levites. Now, what have we got going on here? Do we have one tithe, two tithes, three tithes? There's several explanations. I'm going to use one of them. I may be wrong. I've been wrong before. But in the explanation I'm going to give, it's basically traditional Jewish explanation. And I'm going to go ahead and give that explanation just to show how this can work. There's other explanations that go along with it, and they're equally as good, I'm sure. The question is what did the Lord intend? Well, we can say one thing. That the Lord either intended to give you 80% for your work, 90% for your work, or 70% for your work. All of them are above any contract you could draw up today. God had you in mind because every one of these things that He takes care of with the tithe also benefit you. Okay? The Levites were there to serve you. The widows needed to be taken care of, and besides, you might be a widow someday, and you might not have any ability to sustain your life. But you know what? It was better than Social Security. Because they had to take care of you. Okay, now, guys, it is a really burden, I know, to go on a vacation. It's really burden to be here at Sukkot, isn't it? We're just having all kinds of burdens put on us. Okay? You see, we were guaranteed a vacation out of these tithes. So, let's look at these. All the tithes were for the Levites. And you had to take it to the place that God revealed and eat it there. Okay, if it's for the Levites, why are you eating it? You had to give it to the widow and the orphan and the Levite, and they were to eat it within your gates. Okay? What happened to the place where God revealed? I mean, this is within the gates. You see, we have several things going on here. There seems to be a conflict with what's being said. There are several possible resolutions to this conundrum, but I will suggest only one at the moment. Jewish sources state that there were two tithes taken each year. One was for the Levite, the second to make sure you had a vacation going to the festivals. But in the third year, the second tithe went to the widows and orphans. So the Jews say you get 80%. The seventh year was a sabbatical year, and there would be no tithe. So a full 10% went to the Levites, a 6.7% went to the vacation fund, a 3.3% went to the widow's fund. This was an Israelite social insurance system. Again, the participants were the benefits. You see, it all benefited the offerer. Then there were ceremonial offerings. As we have seen, many offerings were not sin offerings. A great majority of them were to sustain the people either in their religious system, their social system, or enhance their spiritual life. These are all beneficial to the offerer, and God truly received no benefit from them. We haven't even studied anything that God received a benefit yet. The ceremonial offerings are in another category. Hopefully we will discover their purpose also. First, we need to define what offerings are included in the ceremonial offerings. So, the festival offerings like the Passover lamb, the Yom Kippur goats, the Sukkot offerings, the first fruit offerings, the wave offerings, and the usual festival offerings, these are ceremonial offerings. The red heifer, that was a ceremonial offering. Shabbat offerings, they were ceremonial. The morning and evening sacrifices, see, it was a perpetual thing that went on day and night. Ceremonial offerings. The redemption of the firstborn, that was a ceremonial offering. These ceremonial offerings are types. Types will be dealt with in another session. While not all these will be discussed, not each individual one, their value will be seen as they paint pictures of what needs to be done to bring about the restoration of all things. You see, God is about the restoration of all things. Now, literally, these particular sacrifices may do nothing. It would seem like a complete waste in someone's mind, because we know they don't do anything. They aren't feeding anyone. They aren't, do they literally cleanse somebody? Does the ashes of the red heifer make you cleaner? Does it take off some sort of germ? I don't think so. So I don't think they had any literal value whatsoever. The sacrifices to the widows, now that had a literal value. They needed food. The sacrifice to the Levites, they needed food. For you to go and have a picnic before God, a free will offering, you needed food. There was always an intrinsic value to the offering. These offerings have no intrinsic value. Literally, they may do nothing, but symbolically, they speak volumes. The sacrifices served the people. God had no need of a sacrifice. They fed and sustained the people. They supported the religious and judicial system. They prophetically portrayed the work of God. They gave a person confidence to stand before their Creator without fear of being destroyed. You see, if you follow the procedure right, you get good results. That's what God is teaching us. Follow the procedure. It means you have to know the procedure. You have to do it. Okay, guys, knowing the procedure is important in everything that we do. We talked about that yesterday. Follow the procedure, you get good results. You don't follow the procedure, you get bad results. God gave us a procedure. And when we follow the procedure, we can have confidence in what we do. He has confidence to go before the Lord without being destroyed. They are a revelation of grace brought forth in the law for an undeserving people. You see, all of these sacrifices are speaking of the mercy and grace of God. It's all for you, folks. That's what's going on. We're not appeasing an angry God. We aren't feeding a hungry God. I think you will enjoy this song. If you want to know where it's from, It's from the Esdale community. And this was written by John Conrad. If I'm correct about that, I think I am. And so David and Pamela are here from that community, and I think it's good that you'll be able to hear one of the songs that they do. They have a great orchestra and choir and some really good singers. You'll hear a couple of them.
Come into the storm.